pointing down. I want to make sure everyone's got that right, okay? So now watch me carefully. This is where the magic happens. You're going to watch me and then try to mimic, okay? So I'm going to just untangle my arms with a twist of the arms.
You're ready to do that again.
It's a simple twist of the arms.
No, it's not.
Okay, well, I guess you guys don't have the magic. All right, well, a magician's never supposed to repeat a trick twice. Okay, fine, just quickly. All right, arms out, palms out like this, thumbs down. That's what I meant to say. Cross the arms over. Make sure that you got, how do you make sure they're thumbs down, right? Okay, watch. Now you just twist like this.
Yeah, but you're facing opposite us.
Turn around.
It still doesn't turn.
So everyone's aware.
I know. Catholic school, and that's a cheat sheet that you had for a test.
I know it looks like hieroglyphics, but hidden in all of the messages that we will decode and type up and post in the Google Drive is a nice straw dog document as a starting point for an annual life cycle for a chapter. And so we had great minds that came together. And what I like about what the group came up with too is that it really lays out things so that you can get ahead of the curve, so that you're not going May 1st, oh my gosh, what are we going to do about International Coaching Week, right? So you start thinking about that months in advance. So it really lays out when you should start thinking and planning about certain things. A lot of focus on December, January. Look at January. It's pretty daunting.
So, can I,
Yes,
you can be my bonus. So, Denise started with -4 because some chapters have first month of their calendar is April, whereas many others have January. So she just said -4, -3, -2, -1, and then this is typically December and January, so one is
March.
January and ours. So that's why that's huge. But we pushed a lot of things back into December because we wanted to have that planning so that you could ideally have some sort of a all-chapter meeting in January and present what your vision is for the year, and then have breakouts in that particular meeting and have people sign up to help with some of the initiatives, which would be wonderful. And then anything else?
What else, guys?
Specifics are. Can you kind of let us, because I can't read, so kind of help us. So
I have a
we can
question
play
about the
along.
one. How did you integrate the cross-chapter collaboration
We didn't get
as
to
part
that.
of the annual?
We didn't get to it. The bulk. I mean, it took the bulk of our time.
That was part of it.
topic.
Is what I'm saying. That was part of it.
Cross-chapter
Yeah.
collaboration was all of the different ideas from the chapters that were represented at this table.
No, what I meant was like
I know what you did.
in my annual plan.
Listen.
We didn't cover it, we mutinied, okay? So we did what we wanted to do, which was.
Yes, we wanted to get our hands around this. We made a command decision. Hope you like it.
Read it to us, yeah.
Well, there's a lot.
We hire people to know what it says so we can go out with you. That's the idea, yeah.
Thematically.
Okay, so.
Automatically.
-4, announce openings, create profile job descriptions, tap potential leaders. -3, candidates apply, president-elect creates vision for new year. -2, interviews, co-create chapter vision meeting. Core Java, I don't know what that means.
What was that?
Or
I don't know. You're gonna
can't
have
read
to
upside
figure out
down.
your own handwriting.
Yeah.
Or
Or
January,
January.
not core Java or January. Align with, IC week. Okay, so. This is kind of hard.
International
So
Coaching
just
Week
recruitment, openings and recruitment of the new board.
in November.
Then in January, it's orienting new board members, and we've got like 4 steps to recommend for doing that. And it's sharing the vision. So you've already created the vision. You're now casting the vision, sharing it, enrolling at your chapter meeting, enrolling in engagement.
And
That's
so
really
we
a lot
took the
of,
strategic retreat out of January and put it into December, which I think is a kind of neat idea. We've always done it in January, but it's really too late. You know?
yeah.
And then the nice thing that we talked about at our table is that you can get both your old members and your new members together in December. And
Have a transition meeting. Imagine the transition of passing the baton smoothly instead of tossing stuff over the wall. There's a vision.
so Denise was talking about onboarding your new board members in January. The president starts with a mentor coach. You might have a past president luncheon then or some other time during the year. And then you start IDing talent right away so that you recruit committee members, like we said at that first meeting, job share co-roll for the last 6 months, right?
You could, for your committee chairs, you could have that at 6-month stints, almost job sharing. So your committee heads. So you're creating talent pools is what you're doing from the get-go. Your committee members and your co-chairs of the committees.
There were a couple of really good examples, I think, of that to share. One was the ambassador
Yeah, I was just going to ask
program.
them all to talk about the
Yeah.
ambassadors, because you had so many good ideas about that.
Yeah, so for that, what we do is, under the membership, we have a committee that's called the Ambassador Committee. And what they do, we work with them to help us out in terms of contacting members or greeting members at different events that we have, calling up new members who have just joined. So having to work with them, and that also have provided us with a good talent pool to be able to see some of them are more engaged than others, and then be able to say, oh, well, sounds like you are, very engaged and very interested. How about we bring you in and you become one of the board members for whatever we need them to be in. And so that's how that's been working out for us. So, yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay. Assign someone a micro task. We had ID metrics and set up monthly, bi-weekly.
Yeah, so we talked about using the chapter activity report in January. I think this was your idea. So that begin with the end in mind. What are the metrics? And have the president-elect fill that out. And yet that came from your panel discussion. Thank you, Matt. And so that you're starting, again, what are the metrics we'll be kind of evaluated against? Let's begin with the end in mind. So you're actually going through that right out of the gate in January.
So then we get to February and we're kind of into the rhythm, monthly board meeting call, or however you do that, SERAC calls. March, we suggested a board dinner at someone's house. It's GLF in March. SERAC calls are continuous.
GLF, woo!
Woohoo!
Gentlemen,
Member outreach for
2019.
global, what did that mean? Member outreach for global member renewal. Oh,
Yeah.
Renew your global
Renew
membership.
your global member.
Dues are
So
due.
Do the
dues are
outreach.
due. Okay.
Yeah. Get ahead of it.
Then 4 is April and a yearly schedule. Recruit for new boards, so I think it's really important that we start early rather than later. Reach out to shortlist, that's the whole.
Talent step. Mhm.
SERAC calls, webinar, second strategic retreat. Who talked about this?
We do that in Atlanta. So
do that.
our schedule is January, April, and October, September.
Wow.
We have 3 strategic meetings.
I think that's about it. June or middle of the year, you might have a new member breakfast. Of course, May is ICW International Coaching Week.
And then fall is SERAC, this meeting
Yep.
in September.
I think that's about it.
Can I say something about the strategy meeting in December? It was just, because we plan all the way through January at our last strategy meeting, so we can have our first strategy meeting
In January.
in January.
But when we talked through it at the table, it made a lot of sense for December because January, so much is hitting you that it just seems like you're almost against that.
You need to be in
You're
delivery
backing
mode.
up in January already. You're working against the curve there.
You need to have clarity by then if
Yes,
possible.
because if you
Yeah.
create the strategy, then in January, if you have a meeting where you're casting the vision
Too
and
late.
enrolling people, you know, you need to have come up with that strategy as a board for
And
them.
that's January, as if you are renewing the board goals.
Right, in
Yeah,
January.
January.
yeah.
Whatever
December.
that month is, we do it the month.
Month one, whatever month one is.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead.
Anything else anyone that's on the table group
Well
wants to
done.
add?
No, it's a work in progress.
Okay. I'm going.
Neat writing.
Am I supposed to summarize these or
No, you
take
can
them?
actually just tell us everything and then we can add to it.
Okay.
Engaging prospects.
Engaging prospects across large geographies. Tennessee and North Carolina are represented here, and Gulf states. Monthly CEU-driven virtual programs charge a fee for non-member certificates. Focus and draw on coaching diversity. Reach out to members via phone. Whose idea was that? Kind of, why don't you?
We didn't have ideas, we just wrote down their story.
I think it was on an annual basis, making sure that somebody on the board contacts each member. Create special interest groups on special topics. Collaborate with ICF Global to host virtual talks on credentialing and other interesting topics. Create a net of resources to represent ICF board activities in different areas. Plan on one annual conference to bring folks together. Make it worth the drive/flight. Recruit younger talent to promote the chapter and social media. Go to coaching schools in the area to recruit potential ICF and other coaching talent. Linking, can't read that.
Linking.
Educational
Linking chapters
institutions.
with educational institutions. Inviting professors and students to partner with ICF coaches. Regional/state annual event. That was repeated, but this has the added note of rotating it year to year. Offer a certified program to attract members. I thought that said attack.
Depending on the day.
Hogan, DISC, PI, MBTI. 7 Habits. 7 Habits, Colby, whatever. That's
Okay,
it.
so what other ideas in the space when we have to tackle large geography? Well, here's one that I think is a great idea, and we're starting to look at doing it. So we're virtual, Arkansas, Oklahoma, obviously, and we try to do some things locally, but every month we have a meeting, and we know we have to do at least 6 trainings per year, and we get that. But we're talking about on those that are in between, having it to be that Zoom space where you can actually see everybody. On your computer, you can see 25 persons at one time. So what if you utilize that and do something like this every other month, to where you really get to know the other coaches who are in your region? I mean, think about that. That's part of that relationship. If I come on calls but I never see you, or I never have a chance to meet you in person or whatever, but really utilizing that space. And I think a lot of us in this room probably, with some organization or somewhere, we do Zoom calls fairly often, right? SERAC's a Zoom call. So we know people from that space. So what if we integrated that into our monthly meetings for our actual chapters? I mean, that could give them that feel of actually being a part of, and they're part of the conversation. I think that's an idea. What else?
So you're saying that while the on-site monthly meeting is going on, you can invite people in via Zoom?
We're Arkansas, Oklahoma.
Oh,
We are
that's
2
right.
states. So we are
There's no
virtual.
on-site.
You know, we
So
might
it's
have,
all virtual.
yeah, we might have a luncheon for the Oklahoma City area or something
Right,
like Hot
right,
Springs or
okay.
whatever, but our actual meetings are virtual.
Got it.
So something that we've tried this year to build community, which is what I think, Lisa, you're talking about. How do you build community when you're virtual? And, or hosting a virtual event. And one of the things that we've done is typically it's an hour event, And we have had the presenter do the thing that they do, and they engage people or do a demo or something. And then we've offered an additional 30 minutes of an application session. So people who are interested in going deeper get to say more and get to bring in their particular bend, issue, edge that they have to the topic. And so I found that people who want to do that, they're starting to build relationships because, oh, I remember when you did that demo and this is going on with you. Or, oh, you talked last time about. So finding a way to make it even smaller. And so ours has been through testing out the application session, an additional 30 minutes, which, by the way, ICF is giving credit for.
And you're pricing that differently?
No, we are not pricing that differently. We are offering that as an opportunity, and it's in the same $15.
So, Anna, do you do it the same time, like just
30 minutes following. 30 minutes following. Yep.
So what other thoughts are in this space? So some of you that are in, you meet in, one city, but cities are large. What are you doing to bring people?
I don't know if I heard it here, and we thought about it and we haven't really 100% tried it. It's live stream it. Like that's what we got, the Mevo camera, but now we need to find, the intention of one of the programs, whatever we do next, to really turn it on and see if it works the way we want it to work. But today we were live streaming, for example. We did a Zoom call and just connected with where are they, across the country or whatever. So that's an idea that if we all really think about it, you could benefit from it. And you will probably do it the same way. I think I was brainstorming with someone today. You create a closed event on Facebook or something. You could live stream it through Facebook, or you could create a Zoom invitation, and then they can pay you too for it. It's the same thing as you selling your program locally, but the people can be wherever they're at and just join and pay for it, and they get the link to be streaming, and then you need to remember to turn the camera on while you're trying to stream it. It's funny, but it's stuff that we forget because it's already stressful enough to deal with the live event, and we forget to just do the camera, and people paid for it, so it's just kind of like giving you the background information. So that's another option. Created a live stream.
Can you let people that are joining in the stream to interact? Because then they can receive.
We just had it today. If it's a Zoom like today, they can talk to you on the camera. You get a screen like this, and you project it, and then you have them talk, to the people here. It'll depend on how big the event gets that you will allow or not questions, and you'll have to facilitate it like virtually and locally, so kind of like figure out before the event who's going to be doing what so that it's easier. And if you cannot have 200 people on the screens, just have them write questions and just kind of pick a few questions.
We have a Twitter account. It could be going live that way too, in the sense of we're doing the live stream, and if you have a question, tweet it to us or whatever. You see it on the Super Soul
if they're in
Sundays,
Zoom, they
afternoons, things like
can use
that.
the chat room, and then in the
That
room
too.
you might have someone checking
Exactly.
those things.
Just use
you can
one.
play around it.
I would
Yeah,
suggest use
yeah.
one virtual way of doing it so that you're not like 5 people trying to get a bunch of information in. Whatever works best for your chapter, but you will be able to get more.
Because I think if you're on a Zoom call, then you're going to use the chat and have one person watch, and then you can elevate somebody and you can bring their camera up, and the people who are there can actually see it. If you're doing Facebook Live, you want to do a different one, so
And
that's a great idea.
Can you get it from Zoom payment, like to join the meeting? How can you get paid?
Yes.
Yeah.
You register advance, and then you pay on your registration, and then after you register, you get an email with a link.
Okay.
That's how you set that up.
Yeah.
That in the Zoom app, you can use the.
And we use it in our online event scheduling with Wild Africa. And
No, we have Wild Africa too.
yeah, so you make an event that they would pay for, and then in one of the follow-up emails after you register, you would send an email out as a template to all the people who registered.
Oh, I got you. So you get first the registration, then you say, can you have unique links for the
Yes.
meeting? So
You can
from
do
Zoom?
unique
Yeah.
links also. Yeah.
For that
Oh.
particular meeting.
if anybody's figured out how to do charging directly in Zoom, that would be great, because we're doing what you're doing, but the separation between the registration system and Zoom has created some problems for us. There's a level of detail orientation that we haven't always met. Sometimes, because the URL has to be transferred and communicated, and reminders and all that, so.
Well, it would be wonderful just to be able, even because there are many people that are last minute decision.
Right.
You know, we have many.
Zoom is pretty open to feedback. They want to become amazing right now. So, because we've been using it for 2 years, and they do a lot of feedback with us.
If we could do it all in Zoom, it would be great.
Yeah.
The charging is the only thing we couldn't figure out.
I prefer doing it embedded in our website myself than having it go out to someone else, but you want it that way, it's work.
Anybody else towards the geography and the distance just between humans? Any other thoughts on that?
So one thing,
Thank you, Joanna.
So
got your
we
back.
talked about,
Everyone runs away.
a lot of our conversation was around the topic we just talked about. What are you doing, what are the chapters doing online? How are you facilitating it? There was a lot, because we also have revenue generating on our list. And that meant we had a lot of conversation about how are you making money or not with that. You know, what are you charging? What's your pricing strategy that incents people to do whatever it is you want them to do? Do we want to be sure we still have people showing up to big meetings or on-site meetings, that kind of thing? And so we did a lot of sharing about what each chapter was doing.
Would it help if I held that up for you?
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. So we talked about different kinds of meetings, whether it's communicating or being together for community, whether we are offering something that's skill building or different purposes for different meetings. Again, moderators, chat boards, we just talked about all of that. And in addition to the webinars and the ability to leverage that for more revenue and more membership participation, we also talked about what are the other ways that we can generate revenue for the chapter. We talked about sponsorships, student member fees, and connecting with universities who have students in the area. We talked about joining with universities to perhaps have an event or do coaching for them where the chapter gets paid for some portion of it and then the coach gets paid for some portion of it. If you're the one who's done that before, I think Elizabeth brought that up and we weren't sure who said that they did that. So she probably wants to talk to you. Yes? And then we talked about having someone in the chapter having a course around the business of coaching and building your business. This was a specific idea that actually my chapter did, and the person donated the funds back to the chapter. That was one of the ways we generated revenue this year.
And the sponsorships and ad space, did you?
Yeah, so we talked about sponsorships from a number of perspectives. Having people do event sponsorships and what does that look like? What are we giving them to do that? And then having sponsorships that were not related to events, but they have a certain product they want to sell to coaches, so they're buying ad space on the website or different things like that. So we talked about a variety of things when it came to sponsorship. Yeah, assessment companies, people like that.
So anybody who has successful sponsorships, can you, for those of us who haven't yet taken that on, give us some ideas? You've mentioned assessment companies, but what other organizations are you targeting or have you found success with being sponsors, not only that you get the revenue, but the members also get some benefit perhaps, or that they have some interest in?
So one of the examples that was given was a company that builds websites, and they know coaches. They do work for coaches, and so they're already familiar with the kinds of things that we would want. an example for my chapter is that we have a local university who is building a coaching program, so they're very excited about just about anything we want to do. They want to be in on it, and so they often give us space to use. That's one of the ways that they sponsor us, is just giving us space, and they have some really great space too. Were there other examples that we?
C3 is an example. Didn't they donate their facility? Oh, they didn't?
No, we pay for that. Yeah.
Coaching schools are a good example. We have someone who offers virtual admins as a support for coaches. We have a couple of financial planning folks that have done that in the past.
So if you think about it, almost any service that a coach would need, those are your potential sponsors. So financial planning, insurance, liability, just had a couple of ideas.
Photographer for headshots.
Yeah, photography.
Yeah, merchant processing.
Self-care.
Yeah, self-care, so, just think about anything that you would need.
Self-care.
People do it, and one other one, that you should all know about, Choice Magazine, just a coaching magazine, and they would love to talk with whoever you are, to figure out what they can sponsor.
We're also, one other thought, we're trying to think of, are there corporations that are developing internal coaching as a forward-thinking part of their talent development, or that are really bringing in a lot of external coaches? Actually, this has come out of a conversation Kim and I had, really more of her idea, I think, of companies that want to, for brand, to benefit their brand, they want to show that they're aligned with ICF and that they're supporting the coaching industry because they're thinking in that forward way. Maybe they would want to sponsor for that reason, but we haven't really validated that.
Well, it's all validated, so this building itself, and this company is one that does that, right? So they do a lot of coaching with them, and they sponsor us in this. They sponsor National Coaching Week here, and then we had another sponsor, Dixon Hughes Goodman, large accounting firm. John Locke was a member, Vice President, Secretary on board. They sponsored the National Coaching Week as well, paid for the dinner and the drinks, because coaching for them is a very important thing. So your clients could be great sponsors if it's something that they hold as one of their values.
Matt, Varney, is there a list from ICF of companies in different regions or states that are pro coach that have coaching? Do they hire ICF coaches?
No, we haven't found a way to brand them yet. But we'd love to. No, that's kind of on the horizon to learn more about the ones who have coaching, who are developing coaching cultures and are employing coaches.
I guess that could be like the virtual calendar would be asking chapters to submit companies that are hiring your coaches.
It'd be a great source of information.
Because then you can also from that come to prison too, right?
Right.
So Matt, on that, do you maintain a list at all about coaching schools by region? Or is everybody just Googling them?
There's a list of all the approved training providers. That's just all the approved ones. So everyone who has an ACTP, ACSTH, or CCE distinction, you can find them through the training provider services. And those will give you, I know a lot of training providers are based somewhere, but they do training everywhere. So there is a little distinction there. I'll kind of give a sense of where they are operating. Like IPEC's based in New Jersey, they train in 20 places around the world. So there's kind of there's a little bit of information on that, but sometimes it's wider than.
And that's on the website under the training?
Yeah, if you go to like find a training provider, you can go to training provider search. And you can get specific in those drop downs to say, I'm looking for this style of training or.
Okay, thank you.
There's a lot of
Another thing that,
I wanted to say one of the things this last year in our chapter is WBEX. We got a partnership with them. I don't know if it's a unique arrangement. I don't know if it's with emails or whatever, but if somebody clicks through the link and they sign up for a course, they get a discount from coming through us, and then we also get paid for each person that signs up. So they're partnering with ICF because they offer the CEUs. So I think that's available for everybody.
Can I build up on that for you? They have one modality which is set up already with Global, right? We're partners through Global, so we get a discount because of the Global partnership they have. Then you can also join as a chapter. I mean, you could join as an individual, but you can join as a chapter and promote it through your chapter, and depending on the engagement and how many people actually do join the program and whatever their math thing is, they also give you opportunities for other people to get into the program that you can actually bring into your chapter as a member benefit. We got one now that we have to give away. So because of trying to do this, the engagement, I don't know the exact math of how many people we got engaged with them right now, but that allowed us now to have a membership that of course we're not going to use in the war, which is the idea is to give it back to the members. So it ends up working really well if you want to do something like that. And it offers a lot of CCEU, so you're like helping them help
it's
you
a nice
help
fit.
the members.
It's a nice fit, and they want to partner, and they want to be able to. It's a nice way for them to give coaches some quality continuing education, as well as support our local chapters and our members, because they get a discount when there's that kind of arrangement, which is really nice.
So another thing that came about our group was something Georgia chapter did. They beta tested something that is good for all of us to know. I think it was a concern for us on how, for example, we're testing live streaming, and the debate is, would it take revenue from us if we live stream? And so one of the things that the Georgia chapter beta tested is that they got actually a totally different audience that bought into going online to see the meetings. Versus it didn't take away from their current attendees that attended the meetings. So that's something to consider on even you beta testing for your chapters. For us, we could say, my mind was expanded on and versus one or the other. And meaning that, do a trial. See what the response is going to be. But let it be known that this is a trial. At some point, it will be a fee for that. And see what's the outcome versus those that are attending the meeting and those that are actually going online to watch the meetings or the events. That's one.
Just stay there.
I see it. Being able to do your life, you just said, I'm out.
Oh, yeah. Pick this up. Yeah. This topic still feels like an unsolved mystery. But we do our best attempt to.
Bernie, we're going to need your support with this one.
As Ryan said, let's think outside of the box and try to actually create the possibilities what if.
These are the things we can do versus what we can't do. And I will just say in the brainstorming for us, where we continued to get was, yeah, but you can't. Yeah, but you can't. And so the invitation to all of us was, how do you build your business as a person on the board as well?
So we came with some creative ideas, and really we want help from you too, to kind of yes or no, and then Matt just slap us in the wrist like no, or maybe, kind of stuff.
You know the can't is that's when it crosses the line?
Well, we have assumptions of the way we think it's crossing the line, but there's a very gray area.
Our chapter, we had, multiple chapters felt differently about what was crossing the line.
So would you be willing to share the things that we came up with?
So some of the things that we came up with as possibilities is creating a private group just for members, to which they have to access, like they have to agree to be part of it. And in that group, be very specific, which would be kind of like the contract saying, this group the board members of the ICF South Florida chapter are going to be present, not wearing their ICF hats. They're going to be wearing their business hats, okay, or their normal lay person membership hat. So when you're actually part of that group, Facebook group that's private, and it's very specific because you have to describe what the group is for. No advertisement or yes advertisement or whatever's going to happen. The group is not only for selling who you are, but it's for the book club, and the members can talk about whatever they want to talk, so we continue the engagement and building the community there. But you could choose one day of the month or the week and say today's marketing day. So that day, the ICF board members have the opportunity to also sell their practice or put whatever advertisement, whatever program they have coming up next.
Through the membership.
Through the private group that has to be accessed by a yes click from a person, member of the chapter, who has read the conditions of satisfaction of belonging to that group.
And
so
this answered Andy's question about she serves coaches. Part of her coaching, she's like, how am I supposed to do that if I'm a board member and I'm serving coaches and now I can't promote that I serve coaches? So that was for her primarily. But we also have Marketing Mondays, which is a day, and we also have a marketing event calendar for members only, member-only event calendar. So it has to be if they have a CCU kind of program.
And adding on to that, someone already mentioned in the prior group that if you pay for, pick a number, $200, you can send out your information about what you do, just like any other coaching company can.
That's
so
option 2. That's
Yeah.
another option. It's a sponsorship package
affiliate
that you pay.
Yeah.
And we offer that in our chapter. We have different sponsorship packages. And depending on which one you choose, the cheapest one is like $200, and you get a certain, like one email that goes out to all the like all of our members, and you can be in the website, like you can be in our calendar. So it has like some perks for paying $200 for one-time event every whatever so often. So that was the other option, but like we're still kind of like.
We did have a place here for Global Mat, which is there a template for best practices on how one builds one's business as a board member? Instead of being the can't do's, here's the make sure to do's. And I just throw that over for tomorrow, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think it's real timely because the main to-do is to be really conscious of perception, because a lot of times there's a perception that board members have additional access or additional visibility for their business, but it's not always true, because if you're advertising, you're paying the same advertising for the chapter for your program as anyone else is paying, and you're getting no preferential treatment as a result of being on board, then there's no reason to not be able to promote your business or to be able to build your business just like any other member. So it's being really keen to focus on, am I receiving additional advantage as a result of my position with the board? If that's a no, how do I minimize the perception that I am? And that's laying out very clearly what's the access, what's the opportunity for all members to build their business as part of being part of the chapter, and adhere to those guidelines exactly the same as any other member would.
If I could just piggyback on what Matt was saying, because we just got done dealing with this situation in Charlotte, and we developed a sponsorship program and what's the other program? This sponsorship program, for whether or not somebody could advertise and promote their business. And then what we've done is linked that to our website, so it's accessible to everybody. And it lays out the conditions, and it's not preferential to whether you're a board member or not, it's to anybody who's a member. And that way, if somebody does come to us and say, oh, so-and-so is getting to do X, Y, Z, no, you have the opportunity to do that. We can point to it directly because it's available to them to view. And we just passed that as a board, and the people on the board, there were a couple of us that recused ourselves from voting on that because we were involved in it. We have a history of doing that in our chapter.
with previous board members, and we wanted to make sure that we had it in writing and we had, some parameters around it. So that's how we've decided to do it.
We had one chapter that was pretty interesting for the kind of conversation we had, that they feel very comfortable, which sounded really objectively great, to be able to put their business on their name tag. So if you're a president, you can put your business on your name tag, and that's not doing anything more than any other member's doing, because every member's business, they're so-and-so with their business name, and then you might have a ribbon hanging down, perhaps, that you're whatever position you're serving in. And it was an interesting discussion on what different chapters would have been comfortable with that or not. But for some, it was novel to realize, the person that's your president also is a business owner. And many times the membership doesn't really get to see that part of it, because we're almost overcompensating when you're a board member to not talk about what you do that represents coaching outside that room. So anyway.
That was one of the things that we talked about, is like just put a ribbon that identifies your board, but if it's a social event, you could just wear your name tag for your business or whatever. And what happens in our chapter, and now it just came to mind with this discussion, is that when we have an event where we have a guest speaker, we all join. For the first 10 minutes you're facilitating the meeting, but then you sit down, and I pay just as any other member. We don't get preference. We pay for every event. So we support our chapter locally also by paying for every event. So if I'm there as another person and we exchange business cards, so you know what I mean? Like when we talk about ethics, it's like, where's the line? And what we thought about is like, okay, you're getting the business card, you're getting the permission from this person to have the business exchange one-on-one. It's not like going to the list and just shooting an email to all your member lists advertising what it is that you're doing. So kind of like doing those.
Matt, one of my requests or curiosity is, people like to say you can do this, this, and this, and then they make a bunch of other rules up that you can't do. But you said you can do this, this, and this. You didn't say you can't do all this. So could there be something that just says, this is okay, and I like what you were saying, but you just said it to us and now it disappeared. But something in writing someplace?
Yeah.
Instead of people making it up, well, my volunteers are here, yours are here. It's like, this is really in writing, it's okay.
There's a couple pieces on the do not do, and those are basically the limit of the do not do's. And those are found in the chapter leader ethical guidelines and the chapter agreement. And it really circles around what you were just highlighting. Additional access to distributions, additional access to the membership as a result of a privilege that you have, as volunteering for the board. Right. If you're not using that to an unfair advantage that no other member could possibly have, then it's okay. But we do call out, the use of data, the use of any of the access that you would have as a board member of a chapter to your own personal advantage is on the no side. And we all know that's very black and white, easy to adhere to. But that part is written down, so there isn't a piece of what you can do, but I think we've laid out the do nots in the black and white pieces, that as long as we stay on the opposite side of that line, a lot of this exploration about how you can build your business, how you can continue to be an ICF member, and how you continue to be a prosperous coach while you're volunteering. That's never been an expectation of the ICF, that people who volunteer to support ICF lose their business as a result of it. That's exactly the opposite. We would love to see people prosper and become more successful as a result of it. So there are avenues to pursue that. It's just making sure that there isn't an unfair advantage as a result of volunteering for the ICF.
There's like a concept of an instead of, okay, if you're at a conference, at a table or booth representing ICF, anybody volunteer, don't promote your business. And so it's like, that's on the line right there.
That's also more of a assumption and a perception than there's ever been a reason.
So that's those little assumptions that are holding people back.
Some
people are imposing them as rules.
Yeah.
That's where the issues happen.
That is,
Yeah, because that's a good point. When you're at an event and someone's talking to you about whatever it is that you're doing in your coaching career, but you're also trying to make them come into. So it's an interesting line right there.
Yeah, there's almost like a guilt or a shame element.
Converting members from consumer to contributor, I have good news. The good news is that we came to a final answer. There is a very simple answer to this question, and it is a bag of ice. So what I want you to do is hold that aside and we'll come back to it, right? Okay, so before we get to there, what we did first was we talked a little bit about defining what the problem was. What is it that we're even talking about here? So what we defined was sort of a divide between leadership and membership, and that they were siloed, and that there's there's not a lot of overlap between the two. It's about being you're either active or passive. It was very binary.
We don't either.
Yes. Thank you. It is my accent. And that it should be more of a spectrum, but the problem is that it's very binary. I either got to sit back and be passive, or I got to commit to 5 years on the board or something like that. So scarcity versus abundance was something we talked quite a bit about. That it was transactional, so it was a transactional relationship. When I'm a member, I pay, I come and get my education, and I go home, versus taking that next step. So how did we jump to a bag of ice? I think that was a story where we talked about how do you get people more involved, and you have to give them a sense of purpose. They have to feel like they're a part of, not just a part of because I pay my dues and I show up, but because I'm contributing. There's somebody depending on me. And Lisa shared the story about an organization or something.
It was a person who was hired an MLM organization, and so every time he would have a meeting, he would call all the people that he wanted to be there and say, oh my gosh, could I get you to bring a bag of ice? I really need you to do that for me. So that people felt they had something to do. He would take the bag of ice and go to the backyard and throw it outside. He didn't want the bag of ice, but everybody came because they had a purpose. That's awesome.
And we have so many tasks like that, things that we need done, and we're not good yet, at least we're speaking for our chapters, we're not good yet at defining what those bags of ice are that we need, and being able to ask for it, and create a sign-up sheet for it, and get people to, you want to feel like you're a part of this bigger mission. I'm a part of ICF, I'm contributing to the profession of coaching, and it's so easy to bring a bag of ice and say, I contributed, I'm a big part of this. We don't have that small level of contribution, so I think the biggest secret is defining that, writing it down, creating sign-up genius sheets or tools or whatever to get people involved. And then that also becomes the pipeline too. So you get people more involved and they see this is not so scary, and then it's a small step from there to, well, maybe could you lead this bigger project, to becoming a board member. Whereas today we missed that step. I know in ICF Texas we've kind of lost some momentum, and we're asking people to go from 0 to like a 5-year commitment. I mean, nobody would say that out loud, but it kind of is. If you join the board and then you become a president, and it's 5 years. So that's probably the biggest theme, I guess.
Well, then some of the things that we talked about too might be, are we consumers or contributors? Even the ones of us that are on the board, do we have a consumer mindset? Are we really looking at the membership and wanting to take from them? It's a thought. We think we're giving because we're in front and doing stuff, but at the end of the day, are we frustrated because we didn't get from the people what we wanted? Puts us in the same boat. Something to think about. Come on, guys, I know you've thought about this one.
Yeah, we also shared a lot of experience we had with personal volunteering, like with our schools, and I have teenagers who are in band and cross country, and these organizations are masters, I think, at getting volunteers. Partly because as a parent, I'm committed to the mission of the marching band or the cross country team, and so it's really easy to get me to sign up for. All I got to do is bring bananas, or all I got to do is. I forget what other task is, but and so then I feel great. I mean, it doesn't matter how menial the task, I'm contributing to this larger mission, and just making that connection, and then being persistent about it. I was just going to say, I never resent the marching band or the cross-country team for hounding me to volunteer because I know they need me. And sometimes I feel guilty for not saying yes, but ultimately I engage. And we have to have that mindset too. We can't feel guilty or, we should be approaching people and appropriately pressuring, be a part of this. This is your chapter. This is not some other chapter that you come and pay your money and watch the movie. It's you come and you help, you co-create it.
So we talked about that. So we want people to step up and do things. And when you just put out the blanket, we need 5 volunteers for this. Well, everybody thinks either somebody else would do it, or if you really wanted me, you would ask me. So it's about being intentional and asking, would you hand out pens? Could we get you to shake people's hands at the doors? Will you introduce the new people? There are so many little tasks that people can do. And it also talks about that not being overwhelmed because we're dispensing it with many hands, the task is light. So that was part of what we talked about. But then also, what would it look like if we actually had conversation with our members and not just disseminating information? What if once a quarter we held something like this, whether virtually or in person, and really listened to our membership? What is it that you guys would like to see us address? What would you like to contribute? What is your special gift that we haven't seen yet? And to give them opportunity to let us be aware of that, because people do want to be engaged. And the purpose piece, we want to do something that we feel has purpose and value. But if we're not giving an opportunity for them to either volunteer or even to know what that might be for them, then we might have some disconnect there. Yes?
Yeah, related to that, when we were mapping out the timeline for the year, if the chapter has some type of vision casting meeting in January or whatever, where the board lays out, okay, here's some of our strategic initiatives for the year, to do something like this where then people can mastermind and share their ideas around it, but they're essentially co-creating what is the vision and the strategy for International Coaching Week or sponsorships or whatever the different things that the chapter is wanting to pursue that year.
But see, even on that, the board already decided what we're going to pursue this year. What if before we even did that, we sat down with the membership and just said, here are some things that we've thought of, but we want to hear from you. Where do you think we should play? And what does that look like?
Different chapters. One chapter.
So what else on that? And we talked about too, that when people come in, a lot of times they come in as newer coaches and they do have that scarcity mentality. So it's part of us helping them get past that and to really have that abundance, because we think part of this does have to do with the view you see the world through. Is there not enough for all of us, or is there more than enough for everyone? And the more that we can mirror that, the more you'll start seeing different behaviors in our membership. Also talked about their staff. We're all staff, right? Now, we have a person over here who actually is paid staff, and we're very happy he's here with us. The rest of us are merely non-paid or associate. But if all of our membership were staff, just non-paid. It's a little different thinking too than volunteer. It has a little bit of a different weight. And staff do applications, and they have requirements and expectations, and they show up because they have that level of responsibility that word gives it. But just volunteers, I'm just a volunteer. They won't notice if I come tonight or not. It's no big deal.
One of the things we've been talking about actually for a while in North Florida is some kind of buddy system. My daughter was in the Asian student union at school, and they called them Big Panda and Little Panda. So we've been nicknaming it the Panda Program. But that doesn't really tie in with ICF. But the idea is not that we would mentor as mentor coaches a new person, but there'd be a connection one-to-one for every new member, that they would have a not old member, but an existing member to partner with them and bring them along in the chapter, in chapter activities, and make them feel missed if they're not there. But we haven't come up with a good name. So if anyone does this and has a better name than the Panda Program, please speak up.
That's a good name.
Better than a bag of ice.
Oh, I like the ambassador approach that one of the groups had.
calling them ambassadors, or having a, yeah.
With the chamber, that's a pretty typical chamber program, is called the ambassador.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it feels like right now, it's about getting people to become members, like the benefits to them to join. But if we had it like it's like, this is VIP, like you want to join us
Yeah.
rather than we're trying to talk you into
That's it.
joining. And part of that would be that we take care of each other instead of we're giving to you for joining.
Right.
I mean, that just showed up out of there. I'm curious on it.
I think it's that same thing.
It's a little switch. Yeah.
Yes, that we need to have it, we need to bring that part into it, otherwise we're just the consumers.
As a
All
culture.
connected to their why.
Yeah.
Why are they here? So if you're connected to their why, then you know who they are, and therefore they have skin in the game.
Is it ever okay, because I'm saying it's really okay, if their why is to get their CCUs?
Yes.
That's it.
Totally
That-
okay.
that
That's
is
fine.
it.
So put them in charge of printing the
That's all
CCE.
Is to get them.
And a bag
They
of
don't
ice.
want to organize them, they don't want to, like, that's just where they are today. And so, right, and so I'm really okay that a large part of the membership is in that camp, because they're getting what they need and what they want. If I might then ask them, and what might a topic be, and you know, that kind of thing, like getting content feedback for them. But I don't really have a sense that everybody has a need and or desire at this moment.
I think there's a
to be
percentage there.
engaged in a higher level. You know, well, I don't need to push a rope.
Correct.
People will come if they're ready to pull on it.
And I would do
There's
an
probably
I
a-
would do an and to that, Annetta. So what is it that you're getting that's making this beneficial for you? And what can you contribute